Another review of a book that I've read recently. We're gonna do Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins. Yes, I know how to pronounce that. So we're gonna do another review that starts with a quote from the book. I really can't think about kissing when I've got a rebellion to incite. So I've owned this book for years, like most of the ones I read during the blackout, and never read it. Not because I didn't want to. This one I really did want to read the second one for a while. And not because I hadn't read the first. I actually read the first Hunger Games all in one afternoon. But then I didn't get the second book for a little bit. And when I got the second book, I sort of wanted to reread the first one because I had read it so quickly. But the problem is I'd bought the first one on a Kindle, and then my Kindle had died, so I just couldn't read it. And then, as time went on, I wanted to read the second one less and less, because I heard some of what happens in it. I saw videos on YouTube talking about the Hunger Games as a series. I watched the previews for the movies. I had heard a lot of people talking about the fact that the second book takes this from an interesting story of dystopia and revolution to another fucking love triangle. The same love triangle story we see in every book that is written for teenage girls. And I was like, boo. But, well, hurricane. I was running low on new books to read, so I picked this one up. And I was pleasantly surprised. So, quick story rehash for the, one person in the known universe who doesn't know what this book is about. Hunger Games is set in a dystopian world where they have this insane reality show called the Hunger Games, where each district of this country has to choose 2 children at random to send to this game to compete by slaughtering each other. Whoever survives wins. There can be only one survivor. All on public television. Our heroine in this series, Katniss, wins the Hunger Games in the first book. And contrary to what was supposed to happen, she won it with the other child from her district, a kid named Peeta. And she did this basically by backing them into the corner. She threatened to kill herself and Peeta, leaving them with no winner whatsoever, which would have looked really bad on them. So they decide to spare them both. But the problem is that means that she basically backed a dystopian government into a corner, which never works out well. Book 2 starts once she's back home in her district, and she's about to have to go on a tour to show off that she's a winner. But most importantly, she's having to play act that she is desperately in love with Peeta, because that's how she got away with defying the government, by saying that it was all for love. And now a lot of people saw her act of rebellion as what it was, an act of rebellion. And that meant she sort of started to spark a revolution without even intending to. And now the government is insisting that she play act that she is utterly, desperately, head over heels in love with Peeta, so that people know it wasn't about the government, it was about love. Importantly here, she has pretty much no feelings for Peeta, at least not those kind of feelings. She does have some sort of feelings for her best friend Gale, who is the other leg of the love triangle here. But at the moment, she's not interested in any kind of romance. She's not interested in anything. After the whole killing children, fiasco in the first book, she's a little bit emotionally scarred. And that means she's not interested in romance, she's not interested in kissing, and most importantly, she's really uninterested in the idea of having kids. But now she's gonna have to pretend to be in love with Peeta for the entire country. And Gale clearly doesn't approve. So she starts the book basically doing whatever the government tells her to survive, and as we progress, she realizes that no, she sort of needs to spark the revolution that's happening. She needs to be part of this. And her entire goal in this book is to sort of just break away from the people who are trying to use her as a symbol, as an emblem, and objectively just as a fancy pawn. So yeah, the book does have the love triangle. It is there. But I think what Collins is attempting to do with it is a lot of what that silly little line at the beginning encapsulated. Katniss is being forced by society, by her friends, and by her love interests to live a love story that she doesn't fucking want. This book is about her being forced to dance to everyone else's tune, and the love triangle is part of that. And that is something I think a lot of young people can definitely understand and see themselves in. I mean, this book was published in a society where if you see two toddlers of the opposite sex playing, somebody is likely to stand there and go, "Oh, look at the lovebirds." Romance is forced down young people's throats, and especially young women's throats, whether they are ready for it or not, whether it is something they might ever be interested in or not. It's sort of telling that the book is remembered more for the love triangle, when it's largely about the fact that this girl is being forced to act out a love triangle that she doesn't want. And yes, I know she does end up falling for one of them, because at this point it's impossible not to know the end of the series. And even in this book, we start to see her feelings evolve, which I sort of wish didn't happen, but I do understand why she gets more attached to Peeta than to Gale. Peeta gives her space, and doesn't seem to actively be trying to force her into this romantic heroine role that she doesn't want. Even though Gale is otherwise a good guy, he does pressure her. He basically asks her to choose between him and Peeta at a time when she is worrying about whether her entire family is going to be murdered because of her. So this makes me more inclined to accept what I know comes at the end of the series. And I suspect the reason that the love romance part does have such a solid ending is because we want to see characters happy. Especially in young adult novels, we want them to have a happy ending. And for most people, what's going to be a happy ending? Marriage, kids, living happily on a farm somewhere. So Katniss, I know, gets that. But I'm not sure I'm happy with that. But I haven't read the last one yet, so maybe when I read it, I will be happy with it. I don't know. Because, like, otherwise, I found this book intensely readable. The first one, like I said, I read it all in one afternoon because it is so intensely readable. It draws you on. It makes you want to read more. And I think that's a really good thing. And also, Katniss is an interesting character. She's a good, strong female lead, but Collins also allows her to be weak and vulnerable, to make mistakes, and to keep fighting. And I absolutely love her intense emotional response to the big reveal at the end of this one. Not going to spoil it in case you somehow don't know it. This book was so thoroughly about Katniss feeling used that it was really cathartic to see her getting her well-owned emotional explosion. Overall, it made me want to read the third. Though like I said, I've heard some things I don't like the sound of. But overall, it made me willing to give that third book a chance. I'd say at least the first two books in this series are actually worth the hype.